Hey guys, Jason from Trillium West here. This week we are going to talk a little bit about a subject that is related to the video that I did last week about buyers or sellers markets, and that is balanced markets. This is just a reminder that if you like this video, you kind of like what I'm doing here, I'd really appreciate you giving me a thumbs up or commenting down below. Let me know what you like, what you didn't like, and if you want to see these videos that I do try to put out every week, feel free to subscribe down below. Really appreciate it. Last week I talked about buyers and sellers markets. That's really where the conversation is. That's the fun stuff. But let's talk about the third option that does exist, and that is the balanced or neutral housing market. Now, what does a balanced housing market really look like? Well, if you remember, in a buyer's market, that's a situation where there's a lot of supply, buyers have a lot of stuff to pick from. In a seller's market, there is not a lot of supply, and buyers kind of have to fight to get into the properties. In a balanced market, it's kind of an equilibrium between those two options. The number of properties on the market pretty much balances out with the number of buyers that are trying to get into the market. We're not seeing buyers sacrifice their negotiating power and dropping conditions or increasing the price in a drastic way, but we're also not seeing sellers have to give too many concessions either. We're seeing a pretty fair negotiating period, and buyers have options, and so do sellers in terms of who can buy their property. Now, in these kind of markets, you tend to see housing prices increase at a pretty steady rate, a little bit above inflation. In this kind of balanced market, you would see the average days on market for a home kind of stretch out a little bit, maybe closer to a month or 45 days. And then another stat that we really like to look at when we're considering what the market is really looking like is the months of inventory. The months of inventory is a stat that basically says that if buyers continued to consume and purchase properties at the rate they are now, how long would we last before all the inventory was gone if no other listings hit the market? Generally, the rule of thumb for a balanced market, kind of by definition, or what we've expected in the past out of balanced markets, would say that months of inventory stat should be between 3 and 6 months, usually around 4 months. Right now in Kitchener-Waterloo, we're seeing that months of inventory at closer to 2 months. So if no other listings hit the market, we would last about 2 months before every property was off the market. Now, I talk about balanced markets kind of as almost like a pipe dream right now. We don't really see that many completely balanced markets around, especially in major city areas like Kitchener-Waterloo, Toronto, Hamilton, Vancouver, obviously. Like these bigger cities, they don't really fall into a balanced market that much. Usually it's one way, either on the seller's market or buyers, and it's kind of swings back and forth pretty drastically just because of how large those populations are and how significant impacts would be for things like interest rate hikes, changes in legislation on that large scale. Things really do swing back and forth, but it's important to understand kind of in theory what the balanced market looks like. It's healthy for both sides, and when you are buying, you want to know where you are on the spectrum that I talked about last week. With the seller's markets way on this side, buyer market over here, balanced in the middle. Remember, it's a spectrum. It's not a seller's market outright or a buyer's market outright. It does fall in equilibrium. So I hope this has been informative, giving you a bit of an idea as you start to look into the real estate market for purchasing, or if you're considering selling your home, figure out where you're at on this scale because it is important information. Thank you so much for tuning in again this week. If you want to see more videos from me, check out this one up here. I think you'll like it. And if you want to subscribe for more from me, I try to do a video like this every single week. Just click right here. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time.